Ready?
You're all right.
We actually reviewed this the other day, and you did pretty well with it. So I think today's lesson will be more of a review for you, especially coming off of yesterday's lesson. Okay, so today we're not doing word problems. We're not doing real life application yet today. We're just solving two-step equations, okay? Go ahead and write that one down. Jace, you didn't get a label on your notes.
Oh, you made this like yesterday.
Copy Braden's. Huh?
You made this like yesterday.
Yeah. So I'm starting with a PowerPoint that I made of examples because Pearson actually jumps into like all the word problems and all the meaning immediately, and I just I didn't. We're gonna wait till tomorrow to do that till you're better prepared hopefully.
Do you have a video?
Hmm?
Do you have a video in there? Or no?
I don't have a video.
Oh,
Why?
Usually the-
Oh, because they always have videos. Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't make you a video. Claire?
No, we have nothing, right?
Oh, what?
A worksheet, not online and not in your books. It's something different that I made.
Oh,
Okay, so to start, we are going to draw a line down the equal sign. You have to keep yourselves organized. Oh, yeah. What should we do first? Actually, scratch that. When I tell you to solve that equation, what do I mean? Because that's all it's going to say is solve the equation. You have to understand what you're supposed to be doing. Ivan,
Solve it?
what does that mean?
What's it? Solve it.
Nathan?
Can't we like solve the actual problem, but like shrink?
Okay, so it does
Easy
sort of mean
thing, yeah.
make that easier, simplified.
Yeah.
It does mean that, but there's something very specific. Donnie? Find K. So what your answer is going to look like what? What form will your answer be in? Eliana?
Variable equals whatever.
A number, right? So in the end, we're going to have K equals some number. And that's that some number that's my answer. So you know you're done, that you've solved it, when you get K by itself on the left-hand side, and you get a number on the right-hand side. Okay, so you have to know what that means when it says solve the equation. The first thing I'm going to do is get the K term by itself. Now there's a number with K, I'm going to deal with that in a second. But I just need to get the term by itself first of all. And I have a plus 3 that's not with the K. How do I get rid of it? William?
Subtract 3 from both sides.
Good. Somebody else, why did he say subtract 3? Sam?
Because addition is the opposite of subtraction.
Good. They're inverse operations. So inverse of addition is subtraction. And it does need to be organized like this. So minus 3, minus 3. The line isn't 100% necessary, but it does really help with your organization. Okay, so you can tell what steps you're working on. So on the left side, 3 minus 3, inverses always cancel, so we can get rid of that part. So what do we have on the left-hand side?
Negative 8K.
Negative 8K. So we're one step closer to getting K by itself. And all of our math is going to happen on the right-hand side, keeping track of what my numbers are. Be careful on this one because they're both negatives. What do you do with the numbers when they're both negatives? Hannah?
You add them.
You add them together. So you have 128 negative. What's next? I have a number of you that seem confused, so let me ask a question before I ask that one. What operation is going on this side? I think yesterday I had somebody that said it was subtraction. And I was like, no, it's not subtraction. I get that because you see a negative and you're like, oh, that's subtraction. But the symbol has to be between the 8 and the K. What is that? Carolyn?
Multiplication.
It's multiplication. We just don't ever write it. So if you want to put the multiplication dot in between the number and the variable, you can, so you don't forget that it's there. What's the inverse of multiplication, Bailey?
Division.
Good, so we're going to divide by negative 8. Divide by negative 8. the left-hand side, we created inverse operations here, so I know those cancel, so I can get rid of the negative eights. K equals whatever that is. So now I need to do math on that right-hand side to figure out my answer. Go ahead and take some time to do that. You probably have to divide it by hand. Do you have to include the negatives when you do your division?
No.
Jude, how come not?
Can I stand up?
Sure. How come I don't have to include the negatives?
Because, it doesn't really matter as long as you put the negative after you got it.
Do I put a negative after I get my answer?
Yes.
Do you?
No, you don't.
How come not?
Because the two negatives cancel out.
There you go. There you go. Good. Negative divided by negative is
I got that.
a positive. So my answer is going to be positive. Ignore the negatives during your work then. 128 divided by 8. 8 does not go into 1. 8 goes into 12 one time with a remainder of 4. Bring down the 8 and you get 48. 8 goes into 48 6 times. So 16.
No.
No, he wouldn't do that.
Yes, he would.
Yeah, he would.
Let me see.
Okay.
I'm not that stupid.
Are we done writing?
Yes.
Okay, I want to show you one thing on this. I'm going to erase this. There's a way that you can check this. And when you're working on a test, what a check does is it tells you whether you're right or you're wrong, which is very helpful when you're going to turn in a test and it's going to be graded for a major grade, or on your homework or any of that. So I'm going to show you a way to check these so you can tell whether you're right or not. What happened?
Oh, there was just, this prompt keeps coming up on this.
That's okay.
which,
That's okay.
happens.
It's not gonna affect the video. It happens before too.
Well, no, it did affect the video. We're talking about the video, so.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine, that's fine. Okay, for the check, what you're gonna do, this is my answer. So we're done with our answer, but to check to make sure that it's right, what I can do is take that 16 and plug it back into the problem for K and turn it into more of like an order of operation problem. So I'm gonna write negative 8 times 16. That's multiplication, so negative 8 times 16 plus 3. And I'm going to solve that, make sure I get negative 125. If I don't get negative 125, that means 16 isn't the number that solved it. So can all of you do 8 times 16 for me? Sketch that out quickly.
Wait, negative 8?
Negative 8 times 16, yep.
Oh, because when you get 16 times 8, you gotta subtract 3 from it?
Mm-hmm. So what was 8 times 16?
Negative 128.
Negative 128. And then we have the plus 3. Since that's a negative and that's a positive, don't I have to subtract my numbers? 128 minus 3 is negative 125, like I need it to be. So the checks are usually pretty fast and pretty easy, and now you know for sure you're right. All right, let's try another one. It's just division, actually. It's just n divided by 4. Write it down. Draw your line to separate the two sides. What do you think we should do first? There is a right first step. Eliana, what do you think?
Subtract 4.
Good, subtract 4. Here's my n term. Oftentimes I put that in a box just so I don't move what's inside of there. Outside of it is a plus 4, so we subtract 4. inverse operations always do? Cancel, okay, that goes away then. N divided by 4 equals, Ivan, what is it? -2. So when we started, we saw, okay, there's a +4 and we subtracted. What operation am I now left with? What operation is this? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Hannah? It's division. And what's the inverse of division? Claire? Good, so I'm gonna multiply by 4. On both sides. I drew it I don't know why I drew it out down to the bottom there. Where do you guys wanna write multiply by 4? You wanna write it below like you normally do? For some reason, I always do multiplication off to the side.
Yeah.
You don't have to. If you want to put it down below like we do with addition, subtraction, and division, you may. But inverse operation, 4's go away. N equals positive or negative 8?
Negative.
Negative 8.
That was an easy one.
Yeah? You were the one saying, oh, fractions. Okay, let's see if we can do a check on that one.
Yay.
Can somebody fill the -8 back in for me? Like, what's the problem gonna look like? William?
8/4 plus 4 equals 2.
Okay, and I want that to equal
Well,
2.
-8,
Good.
sorry.
Good. Okay, so I wanna make sure that that equals 2. So -8 divided by 4 plus 4, I need that to equal 2. What would I do first when solving this order of operations? What comes first? Do you remember your order of operations, Brayden?
Division?
Division is first, so -8 divided by 4 is,
-8
Negative.
divided by 4 is. Let me see. Let me just do it. 2.
-2.
Negative.
So -2 plus 4, what's -2 plus 4?
-2 plus 4 is 2.
2, perfect. That means we got that check right.
Yay.
I have a lot of students that just put like a check there, like, yep, all done. A lot of kids do that. You guys wanna try this one on your own?
Yes. No, thank you.
What's your question?
So, you put the one down in the middle, or do you do the right side first?
Okay, Mateo had a very good question. Why would he suggest we're working on the right side?
Because there's the most work.
It has the most work, and what else does it have? Eliana? It
Variable.
has the variable. So everything you're gonna do is based off of what's going on over here. So your variable is gonna be on the right, your numbers are gonna be on the left. Help you get started on the first little part. I need to get that A term by itself. This is a little tricky. What's happening to the 6? What operation is in front of the 6? Mateo?
A negative.
It's a subtraction sign is in front of the 6. The adding is actually for that A term. You gotta look at whatever's in front of it. So if that's a subtract 6, what should I do? Add 6. That's where you're gonna start. Okay, and I'll give you about 1 minute to see what you can get done on that.
112.
So those are English actual classes. We'll go through it in a second. So I see a couple of issues with just figuring out what to write. Like, how do I write this? Some of you are wanting to write down what you're doing with these. You don't need to write down what you're doing with these. You need to just do it. So any work that you have to write down goes off into like a scratch workspace, but you don't have to write down here -5 plus 6. I just want you to add -5 and 6. So what goes in this spot is the answer to that addition problem. You don't have to rewrite the addition problem. So what should go in that spot? What is -5 plus 6?
1.
It's 1. So the left side should be 1. You've got an equal sign on your line. And on the right, a divided by 14. What was the next thing that you did? What was the next thing? Jace?
You divide, and 14, 14 on each side.
Divide by 14? Isn't this already division now?
Oh,
So what's the inverse of division?
multiplying.
Yep, so you want to multiply by 14 on both sides. Division, multiplication, inverses, so I can get rid of the 14s. On the left, I'm gonna write down the answer to this. So what's 14 times 1?
14.
So I'm gonna bring that answer down as 14 equals
A.
A.
It's easier than I thought.
Does anybody else have kind of an issue with leaving your answer like that?
Yeah.
I do. I don't like the variable being on the right.
Yeah.
So I always switch these around when I answer and I say A equals 14.
Not 14 equals A.
Yeah.
It's weird.
This isn't wrong. I just think this is better.
Yeah.
That's all. Really?
Like in this equation, like the A isn't on that side. So why would you move it to there?
Okay. So let's do a check. Mateo was asking for a reminder on how to do that check, so let's go through that part. We're gonna write everything from this original equation just as it is, except in place of that A, I'm gonna put a 14. So we're gonna do -5 equals. Next is -6 plus. And then that division problem is gonna be 14 divided by 14.
Can we just put 1?
You could just put 1 right away if you wanted to. The check is a little up for however you want to write it. I think it was Nathan earlier that reminded us of our order of operations, division. Was it you? No, I was saying you're looking at me.
No,
Was
I
it you, Brayden?
yeah.
Okay. So division first. So I'd get -6 plus 1. What's -6 plus 1? -5, like I needed it to be. So you can write that it equals -5, or you can just put a check mark to show that you thought it through, something like that.
Is this the last one? Or maybe like a few more?
Huh?
There's gonna be like a few more.
We have a few more.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not ready? Was I in your way?
No.
Oh. Let's do that one.
Should we do it by ourselves?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you some time to work on this one. I'm gonna come around and check your organization and how you're writing the problems.
Wait, I have a question. Do you also like the 8, like you don't also like that, or do you also like the one with the variable?
The one with the variable, always the one with the variable. There it is. Yeah. Maybe I should go over that. What sign is in front of that 8?
Nothing.
Plus.
Minus.
There's nothing in front. If there's nothing in front, it's a positive.
The unspoken plus minus.
So that's actually a positive 8. So what do you need to do to get rid of it? Minus. So subtract 8 is going to be your first step. What do you? Yeah, you do. You mean like that? Yeah. When you're getting rid of that 2 for the x cube? You don't. So first you have to start by subtracting 8. Start with subtracting 8 and then look at it one more time. Because that's got the x in it, so you don't want to get rid of that yet. You want to get rid of the 8. I'm not going to check these in, just if you have questions, I'll check them. Okay, that's not the first step though, because if you look up there, the negative 2 is the part that has the x with it. That's the last thing that we do. True, you have to subtract it first. I see a number of you getting mixed up as to whether you should get rid of the 8 or the 2 first. I think it would be really helpful for you to put a box or a circle around the variable term, because that's the last thing you're going to do. That's how you decide which number to get rid of. So if you put a box around that, get rid of whatever's not in the box. So we got to start by getting rid of the 8. So we subtract 8. Those are inverses. That left side 8 is gone. What remains on the left-hand side?
2x.
Almost.
Negative 2x.
Negative 2x. Yeah. Are you done? Okay, good. So we get negative 2x equals 12. What operation is going on here? Not subtraction. Don't get yourself confused. I know there's a subtraction sign. That just means a negative 2. Hannah? Multiplied by x. That's a multiplication problem right there. So if it's multiplication, what do I use as an inverse, Sam?
Division.
Division. So I'm going to divide by the number that's being multiplied by x, which is a negative 2. Multiplication and division of negative 2's are inverses, so those cancel. X equals the answer to that division problem. 12 divided by negative 2. Eliana? Negative 6.
I have a question.
What's your question?
Can you say hello to the future viewers of the video?
You just said it.
You
You
just
just
said
did,
hello,
so yes.
Oh.
Okay? Any of you try the check yet?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
You tried? Okay, let's try together. We're gonna start writing our check by 8 minus 2. And then it's 2 times negative 6. What do I want that to equal? 8 minus 2 times negative 6. What do I want it to equal? What number do I want it to equal? Jude?
6.
Huh?
You said 8 minus negative 2, right?
Oh, no. I did say 8 minus negative 2. But when I check this side, it needs to equal the other side.
Oh,
So you were
that's what
misunderstanding my
saying.
question. But I want it to equal 20. And my job is to see if that works or not. So I would do multiplication first. Be careful of your order of operations. So 8, what's negative 2 times negative 6, Bailey? What's negative times negative?
Do you well, positive? It's gonna be positive.
Yep. And positive 2 times 6.
Oh, so positive. So positive 8.
No, multiplication. 2 times 6.
Oh.
Multiplication.
12.
There you go. 8 plus 12. Does 8 plus 12 equal 20?
Yes.
Perfect. And we're gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna let you do work time so I can check your answers kind of as you're going. So we'll do one more.
To the back. It's still scary.
Okay, one more. Write it down. Oh, you can't write it down because I just covered it up. But there you go. Now you can.
Oh,
It's okay. Hold on. Just write this one down. I'm gonna give you a way to rewrite this so this doesn't look quite so intimidating.
wait, we get rid of the one without the variable.
The one without the variable, correct. So this is what I would do. Do you see how the negative is in front of the fraction? It doesn't have to be. The negative can go anywhere you want it to. So instead of the negative in front of the fraction, what I would do is write it with the 2. That way this becomes x divided by negative 2, which is easier to handle than a negative randomly floating in front of my fraction. Okay, so Jude reminded us, he said, okay, so we get rid of the number without the variable first. That is correct. So I'm going to put a box around the number that's with the variable, which means I need to get rid of that -1. Evelyn, how do I get rid of a -1?
I want to put the -1 and scratch that.
-1 under it? What's the inverse though? What's the inverse?
Positive.
Positive 1. I need to add 1 to both sides. Don't forget to use inverse operations. So -1 plus 1, those are inverses. Then I can get rid of that. Another way you can check to make sure you did it right, what's -1 plus 1?
0.
0 went away. Okay, so double check to make sure your operation is right. So I end up with x divided by -2 on the left. What do I have on the right, Donnie? 6. Okay, we just add those together, write down the answer. What would be after that? William.
So then, you have to multiply, you have to get the -2 out, you have to isolate the variable. So multiply -2 on both sides.
Good. I've got division here. We use inverse, which is multiplication. So multiply by -2. Inverse operations, multiplication and division. So we cross those out. X equals,
-12.
thank you. X equals -12.
A check.
Yep, let's do the check.
Do the galaxy one.
Yeah, galaxy.
Yeah, do it.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rainbow.
I will just for this one check.
Oh,
It sparkles.
This is fancy. I used to teach my lessons all on PowerPoint like this before we got this Pearson curriculum, so I had to make all my PowerPoints and stuff. And the kids liked when I used this one, and it didn't sparkle like that before. That must be a newer-ish
Yeah.
update. Like it wrote like this, but it didn't sparkle as I wrote it.
It sparkles.
I feel so fancy now.
Wait, scribble on it once we're done, like, to show them.
Okay, I will. Okay, for the check, somebody fill in -12 into that equation for me so I know what to check. Carolyn.
So you should, 12 over 2, just put the
12?
negative in the, yeah, 12 because just put the negative, like,
But if they're both negative, what happens?
They're positive.
Right? Don't two negatives cancel out and make a positive? I'll write it out so I can show you. So negative 12 over negative 2. What else do I have, Carolyn?
You also have minus 1.
Okay, and what should it equal?
5.
5. I want it to equal 5. It needs to equal that 5 right there. So what is a negative 12 divided by a negative 2? William?
6.
Positive 6, because it's got negative and negative. So I would get 6 minus 1 equals 5. Is that true?
Yes.
Perfect.
Very true.
Whoa.
Awesome.
That's kind of cool.
Should we see what this looks like?
Whoa.
Can we do the rainbow?
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it does. If you were to color the whole thing.
Wait, can't you like make your brush bigger?
Oh
Make
yeah,
the thing bigger.
it's like
Can we do the rainbow one?
it's like those
Whoa.
I guess it's like
eraser.
That's cool.
it's like those toys that like are you see in craft stores, the little things you scratch the black stuff
Oh,
off.
yeah. It is. This one,
Rainbow.
this is really off topic. I hope you guys are okay with that.
Okay, that was.
That's very cool.
It's like the like the ones at the right of that row.
But that one, I've tried that one.
Oh.
Oh, it looks like marble.
It looks like from the song.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, we've got this in the video even.
Okay, we're gonna have to edit that out. No.
Okay, let's shut this off.
Parents that are watching this, we're